You're welcome back to Morning Express. Now, for the second leg of conversations here on the program, we'll be x-raying President Bola Tinubu's ban on foreign goods in the country. Now, the big question remains, is this for boosting local industry or is this a policy challenge? To answer some of these very pertinent questions here this morning is Mr. Hasim Suliman, who is a public affairs professional, convener, One Heart Initiative for Equity and Good Leadership. Very good morning to
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so
bro.
much, Mr. Suliman,
Nice
for
to meet you, bro.
finding the time to come on the program.
Far too kind.
Well, first things first,
Yeah.
Nigeria First policy. What does it mean?
Okay, so basically, the Nigeria First policy is more like a local content policy
Yeah.
that is aimed to get the local production to be boosted.
Yeah.
And to allow for opportunities as far as public expenditure is concerned, to allow for opportunities for citizens to be able to participate in. I think that's in summary what it is.
Interesting. Yesterday we saw a move by the administration of President Bola Tinubu to ban the importation of foreign products or foreign goods in the country. Now, if you recall the past administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, there was a ban on the importation of foreign rice amongst, other products. Now, is this a repetition of history? Because we all know how that policy of the Buhari-led administration went down. Are we seeing something similar or something more economically viable for Nigerians?
Okay, great. So if you see how that policy went down, if you go to maybe Kebbi State now or Jigawa State and see the so many rice mills that are there, and you ask them about that policy, they're also Nigerians like you, and they'll tell you it's a lovely policy. Because hitherto, before then, you would not find any rice mill anywhere. You don't even find people farming the rice itself profitable. You don't understand what I mean. But right now, if you go, myself right now, I'm having to look out for a whole lot of hectares back there in Jigawa to put up rice, because once you do farm it, in fact, the factories are even there to even take it out from the farm and all that. So, having said that, I want to say that all of those policies that you see, they're aimed at just boosting the internal productivity. And I can tell you, for example, that in rice, now I can bet you that local rice is doing pretty well in our markets right now. I mean, the quality and everything is all right. So this now is not saying banning any importation. No, there's no ban on importation, but it's only saying that any product that any public institution wants to procure, that if there are no options in Nigeria market, yes, why not? I mean, if there are no options in the Nigerian production sector, then you can go ahead to patronize those by any means, again, it's a policy announcement for now. Part of the directive is to the Bureau of Public Procurement to put up the guidelines, because the Procurement Act gives them the power to, from time to time, review the guidelines on how the procurement will be conducted, so putting up the bidding documents and all that. So I'm sure when they bring the guidelines, we're going to have more clarity as to how it's going to move.
Now let me take you back a little bit to the issue of the ban on importation of rice that you had mentioned. Every single policy usually has its pros and cons. In as much as that policy had given birth to a lot of rice mills, people became more agriculturally inclined in certain parts of the country, and to this day they continue to enjoy these benefits. You would agree with me that there are certain individuals who share a different opinion, much like myself, whose opinion is the fact that the ban on importation of rice gave way for illegal smuggling of this foreign rice into the country, which in turn gave birth to a surgence in the prices of rice that we continue to see till today.
No, I don't think so. Look, even when you looked at the smuggling, I think it was really limited. I mean, we all visit the supermarkets, and I can bet you that people do till this date now, people do consume more of local. Even the one that the government is buying to give to people and all of that. Go and check it. They're all local rice. So this money goes back to Nigerians, and that's the idea. You know, see, so that's why if you feel that a certain policy, right, whatever it is that you think about it, why don't you rather key in as against become an armchair? Do you understand what I mean? So for example, me, I'm keen in to the fact that rice farming is some good stuff. It's not like I have to spend much. It's just to go to some backyard there and somebody will even be able to lease it out for me, and you put in little money and you harvest your bags and you sell them up, and so you also be a beneficiary of that, what if you want to call it a rise in price or whatever, even though certainly that must have been influenced by a whole lot of other factors, which if been addressed, you know, things like electricity, for example. If you have 24 hours electricity, that means those factories will not have to buy a lot of diesel and all of that, you know, so that's a totally different thing. But in terms of the workability of the policy, look, what Nigeria lacks is productivity. That's all of it. Once you start to produce as much as possible, all this talk about dollar rise and everything is just going to simply come down.
Well, I like that you had mentioned productivity, and I have a chart here concerning the Nigeria First policy, and I would want us to take them one after the other. It's about a 10-point, policy. Now, one is prioritizing local content. That's the policy prioritizes locally made goods and homegrown solutions in all government procurement. So this is mainly for public procurement, not private individuals, much like myself and like yourself. Well, in terms of doing that, certain individuals or keen observers of the Nigerian space have criticized successive governments, not just the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. In fact, for some reason, they have even praised this administration more than the other ones for not prioritizing the purchase of Nigerian-made vehicles by innocent, for example.
Yeah, beautiful.
What would you say about this?
Yeah, so the thing is, unless you're able to make people understand some of these things, they will not understand the internal workings. Because a lot of these things, look, they said the principal aim of a government is the welfare and security of the citizens. Now, the government will not come to anybody's house and knock and give you cash or anything related to that. All the government would do is to set up favorable policies, and then it behoves on you as a citizen to now find a way to key into any of those policies that have been announced, so you go and be part of it. Now, so what do you now say to private sector people who own industries and all that, who deliberately choose not to make quality goods, and who may not even be able to meet up? Because I'm going to tell you this, because I have been in the private sector. When you say they deliberately choose not to make quality goods,
because I'll give you examples. Don't you think that perhaps they do not make these quality goods because of some certain shortfalls in terms of availability of raw materials to be able to produce?
No, it's simply because Nigerians have so far drifted into less managerial skills by the day. I have been in the private sector for so long, and that's why then we're graduate engineers, we're working in the construction companies, and they'll bring in expatriates, some of them so-called expatriates, because from their countries they're not even engineers or anything, but simply because they need to come and provide that semblance of an expatriate, this thing. Do you understand what I mean? But guess what they come with? It's not like they come empty. They come with appropriate managerial skills to make sure that the business keeps moving, while us, the young engineers and all of that. But even amidst all of that, you still find a whole lot of challenges where same Nigerian workers in the company, after getting all their overtime or all their payments, they'll be stealing the diesel. If you provide 10 bags of cement, they'll probably use 8 and keep. So check even big companies in Nigeria themselves, outside maybe sectors like banking sector. I think they've been able to hold on. I think you must give them kudos. But go back to even Dangote, for example, and all those big companies. If you go, you check he had to simply give up on allowing Nigerians to manage those firms.
Yeah.
He had to bring in Indians or Chinese or whatever to come. So I think this is the culture. So if there's a Nigeria first policy, what am I supposed to do if I'm a serious entrepreneur? I should be able to set up, trust me, they'll buy it. Innocent that you're saying, people, the government procurements are buying Innocent's vehicle. Just the only lag now is that he may not be able to meet up the numbers that are required per time. So if I was 50,
we also saw
yeah.
an example of the Adamawa state government that had purchased quite a number of vehicles from Innocent, I think about a year or 2 years ago, for mass public transport for its citizens.
Because even let me shock you. People are asking why are the CNG vehicles, That contract was actually given to him.
And what happened to it?
He needs time to produce them. The numbers. Do you understand what I mean? I mean, just maybe you need to take a stroll. You're a TV station. You could take a stroll to his factory, and so you will see for yourself. Do you understand? Beautiful. I mean, nice idea. Of course, you would be growing. Yeah. The patronage is increasing. Perhaps I'm sure he should be also thinking of how to expand. But he also makes electric vehicles and the rest of them. Now people are buying. That's what people don't understand. I see some vehicles every day. In my office, there are some bus there and the Hilux and all of those.
And I think the Nigerian military is one of its biggest customers.
There's another one called Profos. Yeah. Profos makes all these armored vehicles and all that. The Nigerian army has a permanent contract with him. But again, what you probably only see is that the numbers that he's supposed to make available, they may not be able to make them available. And that's another difference. So that's why all of us, anybody who's serious and who feels that they want to benefit from a government or from a system, you would simply have to key into the policy. And when you want to key in, it's not a joke. Don't go in there with an entitlement that is the government money and so is Nigeria's money and so.
Now, Mr. Suliman, let's leave the government for a little while and talk about the citizenry themselves. There seems to be a large disconnect between certain parts of the country, what they produce, and other parts of the country and what they produce. Say, for instance, in Kano State, you'd find a large deposit of, leather, very qualitative leather, that most times get exported outside of Nigeria, and very little are being used locally here. In Ariaria Market, for instance, in Aba, you find shoe manufacturers who produce shoes that when people use them, some are either good, some are, the way they will say, oh, it's
average and stuff.
But isn't there a way to create a synergy? The local leather producer in Kano, the local shoe producer in Aba, to come together in some sort of a business partnership to grow that industry.
Comparative advantage. Yeah. That's what you call comparative advantage. So people would do that. But guess what? Again, it is the culture and the mindset that has shifted over time. Yeah. Before now, back in the days, you find that Nigerians were very entrepreneurial and very serious at that. But again, I told you, it kept on drifting for whatever. People feel maybe it is because of the whole oil money that has just gotten everybody into waiting on government business.
But everybody doesn't enjoy the oil money.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Everybody's waiting. If you look at it, practically all the young people, they're mostly, if you check the demography, especially if you check the north now, for example, most of the young people are simply all waiting for government business to either be employed in FIS or whatever.
Or NNPC.
Do you understand what I mean? If you go over there to the east, they're busy doing their businesses or jackpotting or even leaving the country and stuff like that. If you go to the west, what you find more is entertainment and all of that, with some also jetting out of the country. Yeah, and then unfortunately also you could find the whole cyber crime thing and all of that. You understand? So you see that everybody's mind is on totally as against really putting in that hard work, because all of these things about productivity that we're talking about requires a whole lot of hard work. You need to put in work, you need to put in the thinking, your business development plan, how you're going to advance it and all of that. So I think what's most important is even reorientation. So mind will be brought back to appreciating all of these things as they ought to be, that you have a responsibility to key into the policy. The policy is simply meant for you and to your own advantage. If you started to make good computers today, people will buy them. Why not?
Now let's talk about. I like that you had mentioned computers. There is a metering gap that the Minister of Power, talking about Chief Adebayo Adelabu, continues to cry out. There's a metering gap in the country that has not been filled out yet. I don't have the figures now, but hopefully within the course of the conversation, I will. Now, some meters are being imported from outside of Nigeria. Now, mind you, there are also companies within the country that are capable of producing this.
And they've banned them.
Now, the revised procurement guideline here says the Bureau of Public Procurement, that's BPP, will revise and enforce procurement guidelines to favor local suppliers.
Absolutely.
Are we seeing an end, perhaps a possible end, to such issues where something as little as a meter, an electricity meter, would have to be imported from outside of the country, whereas we can get it locally made here?
No, so that's what I'm saying. Like, for example, about this meter, I know the meter company that produces meter in Lagos.
Yeah.
He produces as much as he can. But trust me, he cannot. Look, bro, we're 200 million people.
Isn't that supposed to open up way for more investors in the industry as well?
That's the point. That's what when we get on platforms like this, we will tell people who are listening that this is a golden opportunity. Do not sit back. Any product that you think you can make, in fact, you can make your product, walk into any government agency, write to them, and quote the policy of Mr. President.
Yeah.
And watch them. If they're not going to oblige, then you can take it up. You can use your social media to shout about it. Snap all the acknowledgement copies and everything and put it up and tag everybody you need to tag.
Can such instances also be relayed to the Bureau of Public Procurement for perhaps intervention?
Oh, absolutely. If you have your products, and of course, because the Act of the Procurement Act gives that room for anybody in the public whatsoever who has a concern about the procurement happenings to approach the Bureau. And we have a good DG there now who is doing pretty well, who's trying to reform. And I'm sure all of these ideas, because the president will not come up and just announce a thing unless the professional agency. So I'm sure this might have probably even been their own intervention, and they got the approvals now, and they have been directed to go ahead to. So this is the point. Citizen participation, as against just every day we're just waiting on the headlines about these leaders to make a noise about it without necessarily participating. I think it's rather unfortunate, but we should and we must tell the citizenry to please key in to these policies.
Now let's talk about two states that are considered perhaps the food baskets of the nation, Benue and the Plateau. Plateau State has a large deposit of agricultural produce, and owing to innovation, we have seen industries springing up in Plateau State that continue to manufacture and perhaps distribute these goods across the country and even outside the country. The same is not for Benue, with its huge deposit of fruits, vegetables, farm produce. There isn't a single industry that processes and manufactures, this agricultural produce for proper sale. In situations like that, can policies like this address states like Benue that have these large deposits yet very little to no results?
Okay, great. So if you read the policy, and I equally have a hashtag I'm running, I call it homegrown. And if you read there again, you will see that they said homegrown solutions. So that means that the solution must have been grown by somebody. So
in the state.
Yeah, in the states. Do you understand? So if you take places like Plateau State, for example, there are a couple of factors that have made all of that to happen over time, especially their weather. Do you understand what I mean? People love to, because of the weather, they would love to be there, and then these resources are available and they'll be able to and that's why it behoves on them also, for example, the people of Plateau, to make sure that they preserve the peace, so that people will continue to find that weather of theirs conducive to come and be there and set up their businesses. So, for example, now this, like when a federal government announces a policy, the expectation is that, sorry, excuse me, the expectation is that the other governments, the sub-government, the sub-nationals, they should also find a way to key in this, into this thing, because policy. At the end of the day, the poverty resides in your state, for example, if you're a governor. So once Mr. President announces this, in fact, why can't even the state governments themselves set up factories and run them, produce something?
It doesn't all have to come from the federal government.
Yeah, you'll be getting revenue as the state yourself.
Yeah.
It will now add to whatever it is that you're collecting from the national cake, and then put everything together and see how you can boost. That's why states like Lagos and the rest of them are having as much revenues to be able to do the things that they want to do, because they have leveraged on different federal government policies to tap, from the port. They know how to tap in, and they've created a big hub in Lagos where so many things are happening, including tourism and the rest of it. So the thing is, the subnationals themselves, it is time for everybody in this country to start putting on their thinking caps.
Yeah.
Once subsidy and all of those things were removed, it was obvious that free monies had already disappeared. So anybody who wants to put in because those who put in the thinking caps and who do the work, they're actually earning. People like Bua and all of them, they've been advancing now. He's putting up his own refinery in Akwa Ibom. He has a cement factory here. Mangal, the one with the Max Air, he has a cement factory in Kogi now and all of that. In fact, there was something trending on social media where somebody was pointing to some factory in some bush in Kogi State. And when we did the Google search, it was Mangal's cement plant that had already even come up. So I'm sure that was some old video. It's already up and running there. You understand what I mean? So people who go into music, they're selling out. Rema just sold out the Madison Square Garden in New York just a few days ago.
So when you talk of local content, it's all encompassing.
All encompassing.
Talent,
productivity, talent.
Skills,
Oh yes.
Whatever it is.
Oh yes.
Produce.
Absolutely. So if you want to do a get together in your office, maybe like a team bonding or anything, if you are calling any artist, it has to be a Nigerian artist. It has to be either Ashaki or anybody who should come there.
Unless they are indisposed, then we can look for Rihanna.
Perhaps, unless they are, but then you have so many of them all coming to do very well. Yeah. And all of that. So it's all on you have to be able to put on the thinking cap. You have
now let's quickly move on. Number 3 here on the list says that the revised procurement guideline, of course, and number 4, local content compliance framework. A framework will be created to ensure compliance with local content requirements in all government procurements. That is yet to be seen. Register of local suppliers, a register of high quality Nigerian manufacturers and service providers will be maintained by the BPP. Now, before we get to manufacturers, I want us to talk about perhaps service providers. Maybe entertainers, for instance. There was a time when Senator Ned Nwoko had raised, something at the floor of the Senate, where he had called for physical offices of local content creators in Nigeria to be situated all across the country. Now, we don't know how that bill is faring so far, but it was met with a lot of criticism. Is this also in line with, this register of local suppliers, perhaps service providers in this case?
No, so, there's what we call solicited and unsolicited services.
Yeah.
So, for example, if I am just sitting and then maybe there's a deliberation in a certain public office that is going to be a get-together, and then Ashake is going to be called. You see, there he's sitting on his own. You're the one looking for him. So in that case, you may not necessarily, he doesn't have to be in any register.
Yeah.
But we're talking about like people who always indicate interest that they want to do government
perhaps bidding
business,
for government contracts
and
businesses.
all of that. So it's expected that based on all of the technical evaluations and how much capacity they've shown over the work they've done in the past, that the Bureau should keep all of those kind of registers so that perhaps they could even make recommendations. So if an agency says, no, they want to buy from this, the Bureau could check from their database and suggest another. Do you understand what I mean? Due diligences can be made and all of that, and follow the dictates of the Act to be able to patronize them. So I think that's basically what it is. But then, regardless of whether the Bureau keeps your detail or not, the quality of your stuff will sell you out.
What is the position of the Ministry of Information and National Orientation in disseminating this information? I know we are talking about it here on the program. It's something that we might not get to talk about again tomorrow. Another issue would come up, and yet another. Every day it's a fresh topic in the news. Perhaps after today, somebody who did not get to listen to this interview or other interviews concerning this might never know about this. What is the role of the Ministry of Information in pushing this?
So that's why synergy between government agencies is important. I think the Director General of the Bureau of Public Procurement is doing a lot in terms of awareness. He's on the TV stations. You guys should try to have him here. Yeah, I'll try to see how to get him to come here, so you guys can talk about it. You know, so I'm sure, so you can see that he's doing it. The Ministry of Information and them now, they're supposed to have some sort of synergy on that, and even the Nigerian orientation agencies on how to get people to understand that this policy is meant for them and that they should key in.
Now, one particular number I have a problem with is item number 6 on this policy list. No foreign procurement without justification. No procurement of foreign goods or services will be allowed without justification, and a written waiver
you have
from the
BPP.
BPP. Say, for instance, with the way governors perhaps purchase vehicles for either royal fathers within their states, or purchase of government vehicles in any MDA, and these vehicles we know are often not innocent, or what's the other one that you had mentioned?
Those are
If these vehicles will be imported, can the BPP deny the state governments or the MDAs a waiver?
Yeah, no. So the state governments are not under the Bureau.
Okay.
Yeah, they have their own.
The MDAs we are talking about. So can the BPP deny the MDAs these waivers for procurement of these vehicles from outside of the country?
Yes, they can. If your justification is not, the thing about public procurement is about justification.
Yeah.
You have to make your point. If you have gone, you have also proven that you have written to Innocent that you need 100 of these vehicles, and Innocent has said that you require 12 months. You have also written to Nord, and they said they will require this and all that. You explain it to the Bureau that this is the situation.
Yeah.
And the Bureau herself has a right to do due diligence and meet all of those people. Is it true the way you've said it like this? Oh yes, this is what it is, because we have so many demands from here, from there, from there. Why not? The government cannot stop. What cannot stop? Do you understand? But the only thing is, I think, perhaps also, that this is going to encourage those foreign companies to also endeavor to come and set up here. They've been here before now, Volkswagen and the rest of them. Yeah, they've been here.
Volkswagen.
Yeah, so they could also come and set up their factories, so they'll be able to easily key in to some of these policies. I think that's just basically it. But then I think that by and large, that the policy is definitely going to be beneficial to those who have got stuff to sell.
Now, Mr. Suliman, as a Nigerian, I'm afraid that sometimes I can be pessimistic when it comes to transparency and accountability when it comes to these MDAs. Are you saying that with clear assurance, the BPP and these MDAs will not engage in any form of sharp practices to give these waivers, even without proper explanation, even without reasonable reason for these procurements from outside of the country?
So, if I ask you something now, I'm not sure if you know, are you aware of nocopo.ng?
Certainly not.
That's the open procurement portal. If you open the Nocopo portal, you're going to see the procurement plans of every of these MDAs. vis-a-vis, of course, the budget also, which is there on the website of the budget office of the Federation. So the question to ask now is, how many people scrutinize all of these documents? So that you can write, I'm assuring you that if you write to the Bureau on anything that you've seen related to public procurement, you will get a reply.
Immediately.
Oh, yeah, because they have to check, so it cannot be maybe in a day. Because if you are complaining, they will have to write to that place.
But certainly
to say,
there will be a response.
Certainly. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I mean? But how many people now test all of these things is the question to ask. How many people are even aware that all of these things do exist? So look, at the end of the day, right? Nobody is sitting to say that at the end of the day there are no interest or any. I mean, even if you go to the advanced democracies, there are interest, lobbying, and all of those things. Do you understand? Those are natural part of life.
Now, of course, there's a very thin line between lobbying and corruption as well.
Yeah, so the thing is, if we continue to get bogged down by all of those things, right? And sometimes I even believe those who say Trump came in now. Did he not cancel out US aid? Can't you hear all the revelations that are coming out from US aid? What do you call that? Do you understand?
Yeah.
If it is here now, we would have brought down the roof, because do you understand? That's also absolute corruption. There's no way you can term that. So we have to stop to get bogged. Look, I was telling my friend yesterday that when last did he visit the Abuja airport? And he said maybe it's been a while and all that. I said, go there now and see. From the parking lot to everything, it's beautiful. The train even drives from the World Trade Center straight up to the airport. That's Nigeria for you people. And that's all those things you're seeing, they were executed by government agencies. So it's not entirely Armageddon, if you ask me, to be honest, because there are things we see there that are happening. Yeah. Now the roads in this town, they are coming up left. In fact, I went to my farm far away in Jiwa. I had to, usually I always follow the Karamo Road because it's a little narrow and all of that. And this last time I went, they told me that there's a road, that there has been a new road. I said, no, they must be kidding me. And I got onto that road, I could not believe it.
And it was smooth.
It was smooth, up to town. And there are factories all coming up all around and everything, farms and all that. So, it's not entirely Armageddon. Don't get bogged down by, yes, there may be public servants who choose to be brazenly corrupt. Do you understand? But even them, like my experience in the public sector has shown that it's not sustainable. You either get busted by the EFCC and all you taken will even be taken back and all of those.
Including extra.
Yeah, so why don't you just rather work? Do you understand? Yeah, if maybe from the profit there will be some small, perhaps, do you understand, to just keep body and soul moving together. But then I do know that some of these public institutions are actually putting up work.
Now let's talk about the technology transfer and skills development, where contracts for foreign goods and services must include provisions for one, technology transfer, local production, and skills development.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you are aware of the NCDMB.
On the local content.
Exactly. And mainly what the NCDMB does is it's chartered towards the oil and gas sector.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think that perhaps this policy might boost up the activities of the NCDMB, not just the NCDMB, but also other sectors where there is need for, a contract being awarded to perhaps a foreign company?
Oh, yeah. In fact, one thing, maybe if people are not in certain sectors, I've been in the construction sector for so long. And I can tell you that over time, I mean, back in the days when I first joined it, you have more of expatriates doing it. But I can tell you now, even the Julius Bergers, there are more blacks in there, there are more Nigerians in there. And like the number of expatriates they have to bring because of how much you need to maintain them and all that has really dropped. So you have a lot of Nigerians now who have earned experience over time. And do you understand what I mean? Yeah, so already I think that is happening. But this again now will boost it, especially in the construction center and so many other critical sectors where we actually have skill gap in them, But on the overall, I think So this is where you encourage associations like Nigerian Society of Engineers, all those Society of Architects, of this or that, and all those councils,
Yeah.
to see how to get our professionals to begin to acquire management skills. Do you understand?
So
Because look, they can transfer the skill to you.
Yeah.
Without management skill, you still will not be able to advance it.
It makes him that your major concern is not just the involvement of, local skills in these industries, but rather managerial skills.
Managerial skills are key, because if you don't have managerial skills, you can't advance. You can't advance the skill that you've learned. It will just remain there as skill. You come there 8 a.m. every day and close by 4 p.m. And yes, you're doing a wonderful job, and that foreign company is probably giving you some pretty good salaries.
Yeah.
But the idea of technology transfer and all of those transfers is so that at the end of the day, you also be able to set up all of those sort of things in the country, so they can, so and really, we really do, like, because I've been in that industry for so long, and I've worked among it. I've worked with the ones owned by foreigners and ones owned by Nigerians, and it is obvious to me that as far as managerial skills are concerned, I think we're doing extremely poorly. I think we want to maximize the profit to fund luxurious lifestyle that is totally unnecessary. Do you understand? And that's the problem. When you want to maximize the profit to be able to buy the Gucci's of this world for your wife and get on the business class, then you definitely have to compromise on quality. If you can understand what it means to be a manager, to be modest and to set up your business and prioritize it, you should be able to be able to advance whatever skills it is. But I think in a lot of sectors now, a lot of Nigerians, all the machines that are constructing all the roads, and all of them are driven by Nigerians.
Are being handled by Nigerians.
Yeah, they're all like, the surveyors are all Nigerians. Also, they'll bring out the road for you, and the
even
bridge.
Companies like the CCECC.
All
or
of them,
something
the
like
surveyors,
that.
just check them out now. Those ones looking at through the whole thing. Yeah, they're all Nigerians. Trust me. Oh, yes. They're very good at it. We all rose naturally. I rose to managerial level naturally.
In the industry.
I didn't need to know anybody. I didn't need to know anybody. And I'm so networked in the industry. I know it. I have friends, expatriate friends and everything. Do you understand what I mean? So yeah, all of those kind of tendencies.
Now this policy, we hear it aims to promote a new era of local enterprise, self-belief and national pride, as the presidency has put it. And also, the government says that it would lead by example by investing in Nigerian industries and its people, and changing how it spends, procures, and also builds. Beyond just this policy, are there other, perhaps, sub-policies attached to this that are working in line to help promote Nigerian brands, either based on skill sets or based on production?
Yeah, I think even the ministry for what do you call it, like the one in charge of culture and all that.
Yeah, Ministry of Arts and
yeah.
or is it?
I think they've renamed it now, talent economy or something like that, right? Something like that. I think they're also trying as much as possible to carry, for example, the talent industry, the whole entertainment industry, and all of that alongside the activities they're doing. So yeah, plus all of this, but beyond it, again, I think this would be more like a recommendation that indeed, just like you had said earlier, that the Ministry of Communication and Information
and National
Orientation really needs to key into this idea and be able to drive that mindset change, so people will understand that productivity is not a tea party. You just don't sit under the trees and be gisting about nothing or tweeting about nothing and expect that anything is going to change. The policies are out there for you. The government now wants to spend the money on what you make. But the fact is, you have to be able to make quality stuff. And you have to have the mindset of advancement. So your managerial skills have to be all right, and you'll be able to do what you have to do.
Now, the policy is aiming to address local manufacturing, local production, and all of that. everybody doesn't have to work for a large corporation or a large business. There are small and medium,
Yeah,
entrepreneurs all
absolutely.
across the country. Is there anything that perhaps the Bank of Industry is doing in line with ensuring that some of these SMEs get adequate funding, support, and patronage by the government, both at the federal level and at the state level?
Yeah, I think the Bank of Industry has its threshold,
Yeah.
but I think the MSMEs also have their own separate agency.
Yeah.
That's SMIDAN.
Smidan.
Yeah, and I think it's SMIDAN's place too. And in fact, the other day I was on X and I saw Sheyi Law.
Yeah.
He had visited one of the very big factories they had done where you only needed every day to come with 300 naira, and you have all the machines, all the sewing machines.
At the Smidan office.
Oh, yeah, I think either in their office or maybe it's a special center they built somewhere or something.
Just pay 300 naira and then you have access
it
to
was
do
a
whatever you want to do
yeah,
for the
to
entire
learn
day.
for the day. Yeah, you learn how to sew, everything, the materials are there and all of that. And I was really thrilled. So that's what, look, I think a lot of the conversations around the non-workability of Nigeria is more with those who simply choose not to participate.
Yeah.
And I can bet you that if you enter, you go, look, that back in the days that I'm telling you this stuff we used to do then, oh bro, we dey carry file for waste, with CV. They were carrying inside town. Do you understand? They knock on doors. I'm telling you, and it worked.
Searching for contracts.
Oh no, looking for employment.
Bidding for employment.
For employment. Yeah. Because I was a quality control person. I worked in lab from my IT to NYSC. So I had the skill, and I knew that if I could get any opportunity to sit with the executives, I'll be able to explain to them how much of the work, and it works like magic.
Yeah.
Especially that you're good at what you do. So, nobody will sit anywhere and you just expect that somebody's going to knock at your door. It's not going to happen. But if you go out to the streets, foreigners are even making it in Nigeria. If you go to Lagos, all the nightclubs now, they are owned by Lebanese. And they are cashing out because why are our people not be able to have them and sustain them? Managerial
skills. But I'm sure there are some Nigerians. There are many Nigerians who also own nightclubs. There are many Nigerians who also own, businesses
I'm saying the
Yeah,
sustainability. It's a different thing. I can have it and it packs up in 3 months, but you can have it and in 10 years' time it's still working.
Yeah.
I'm saying that's what's going on. Make your research. Check it out. We have friends. We're on the street, so we hear all of these things that are going on. So we're not saying people don't attempt it, but you see that at the end of the day, because maybe there's going to be negligence to let somebody else do it, and before you know, sleazes will be happening, and then everything. So if we can really improve on that managerial skills side, I think Nigerians have amazing skills to do awesome things, and we can be able to turn this tide, because once you can solve productivity problem in Nigeria, trust me, you've solved practically 80% of the problem.
Now let's move our attention a little bit to the agricultural sector. We all know the challenges bedeviling the agricultural sector at the moment, the food insecurity that we continue to see, fueled by certain forces or by certain indices, including insecurity. In places like the northeastern part of the country, you have the Boko Haram insurgency. In the northwest, you have the banditry and kidnappings. In the north central, you have what is now known as the Mahmuda terror group, Lakurawa in the northwest. And it's just a whole lot. Farmer-herder clashes continue to fuel some of these shortages in food production. Is this also a way, is there a way to stem down some of these insecurity challenges? And if yes, can it in turn help out in boosting food production and perhaps opening up gateways for manufacturing companies to be set up for processing and exportation?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the whole, those kind of insecurity problems can be a little complex in nature. And so that's why the participation of the various communities also is extremely very, very important. As much as we also encourage the government at the federal level who control all the security apparatuses to be able to increase funding and make sure that there are equipment to be able to go and get this job done. But then again, you would have to try and solve the problem from its roots. And that would mean that state governments and local government will have to do more in terms of education, in terms of bringing the community together to be able to have like community services, like even the whole vigilante and all of those kind of things, you know. They'll do a whole lot. So I think really that leadership at those subnational levels are areas that we need to start to pay serious attention to. I mean, because if you could, I mean, and it doesn't take so much. As much as you know what you're doing, you'll be able to galvanize your people and be able to get something out of it. But I'm sure that if that can be taken care of, then indeed the productivity, at least even at that peripheral level, because you know the productivity also has stages. You know, it's a different thing that you just farm this produce and you harvest them and you sell off or you export them. And where they're kept there in the same environment and processed into products and sold out, because that way you create a lot of jobs.
In terms of processing, I see a lot of young people now going into processing of food produce that on a normal day you wouldn't even see them being processed and packaged. You can find processed and packaged Ijebugari. You can find processed and packaged perhaps pineapple or some sort of fruit that is, you know, dried and then packaged, ready to eat. You know, it's a whole lot. Sauce being packaged, all locally made here in Nigeria. How can we explore these things? I understand the stigma surrounding locally made, you know, food produce in the country. We would rather buy a can of, you know, tinned tomato from outside of the country rather than patronize a locally made one. But how do we ensure that this stigma is taken off the minds of Nigerians to let them know that, hey, what we have here is better than what is out there?
Bro, do you know what? I can bet you that it is, look, over the last 10 years, trust me, the culture has also changed. As much as we're talking about it and encouraging people to do more, but the culture has changed. Go to H-Medics. If you go to H-Medics, there is this first counter you see where they sell fresh juices. It's a beehive now. Nobody wants to buy the whole canned juice and all of that anymore.
The processed...
Everybody now wants to buy that fresh one where you get the watermelon or the sugar cane or the all of them. And even all of those biscuits that you're seeing and those nuts and everything. People
cashew nuts,
you understand,
nuts, all packaged, kilishi, everything is just there.
So you find all the people are actually... Unlike before that, people will not care. Who would look at you in those days when we were kids to buy your fresh juice or anything? Nobody will even look at you. But now, Kunu Aya and the rest of them, they're all there. They're all there now. They're all there. People are buying. These things have been exported because I can bet you that if you're out there in Europe anywhere now, there is no country. I'm not sure I've gone to any country where I didn't get Nigerian food.
It's all over the place.
All over the place.
Now, beyond oil, beyond the export of our talents in terms of music, in terms of movies and all of that, food is actually another huge export that Nigeria has.
Huge export. Trust me, that's why I said if you're not in a sector, you don't know what's going on. There are so many people exporting stuff from Nigeria. Trust me, Nigerians like you and me, they're earning forex. They're not going to shout because they're just cool with themselves and just happy with themselves. And they're making that silent money and they don't want to join anybody on Twitter or anywhere. They'll go and keep ranting and keep ranting. They don't care because they don't even have to tell nobody nothing. So all these things, I ate good amala, good everything. And if you see the patronage, when you go to those restaurants in those countries, you'll be shocked. At the level of patronage.
How much they want to taste or eat Nigerian
how much
food.
People want to eat. They are ordering, like it's always sold out, and they're very busy picking up those forex from there, and they're every day in contact with people from here to keep sending stuff, because you need more. You need more alubo, you need more everything, goat meat.
You need more amala.
You need more amala. You need all of it.
We have seen even dried packaged ram meat being exported in large numbers, large quantities.
Yeah, people even now send just maybe not so much through airports by hand luggage and just go there, and you either give or you sell it. People will buy it, Gary. All of those things. So really, trust me. Like if any Nigerian who can change his mindset and understand how to key in to some of these policies, as imperfect as they may seem, I mean, you're sure going to be all right.
Well, it's been a very wonderful conversation, but I just want to get your last take before we let you out of the studio, Mr. Suliman. I like the positive dimension that this conversation has taken, but your final words to Nigerians who might still be pessimistic with regards to this policy and who might still be pessimistic with regards to the drive on where Nigeria is currently heading to.
Yeah, the fact is that we have to get it straight. I mean, over time, I am also a victim of that generation. Over time, we have had to have a period where it was made us to feel that everything is entirely about government, and the whole narrative appeared as though government will come to you and bring anything, and it doesn't happen anywhere. Some of us who are well traveled, who have also had personal experiences, have come to understand that such would not happen. But it is certain that if you have got a skill, no matter how difficult you go through to acquire it, it is going to be patronized. That is a sure. I am extremely sure about that. We have so many examples abound. All of the musicians who come and start to talk about their beginnings and even bring back their old photographs and the rest of them. You know, they didn't. The Hausa musician that hosted Mr. President in Katsina, Rarara, he's pretty popular today. He's a presidential musician. He was a former Almajiri, but he was able to find that talent. He didn't allow himself to be held back by whatever factors that they were in his society, and he's where he is today. So the examples are abound. So as much as perhaps getting to learn those skills might be a little difficult, and even though some government agencies like the SMIDAN and the rest are providing some of those things, you have to go out there, pick something, be good at it, and then send it out there, and you surely get the patron. I think we have to change the mindset. And of course, that is not to take away anybody's fundamental rights to also participate in the democratic space. Vote who you think that your mind settles for. Don't for those who you don't feel your mind does not settle for. But staying away from the system and just being the armchair critics would not help the system, because it's not going to change anything. You're only going to give room to those who you perceive as doing wrong to continue to perpetrate the wrong.
Well, I couldn't have said that any better, Mr. Hasim Suliman. Thank you so much for finding the time to come on the program.